Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back, and welcome to everything you need to know about guitar amps. Alright, so anyway, today's video is thanks to a Facebook post. Yes, I love it. Gives me great video ideas. So anyways, this guy asked, about plugging an acoustic electric guitar into a regular guitar amp. Okay, and from the looks of it, it is a Marshall amp. Oh, I hate to see that poor thing cook. Anyway, so I'm going to answer these questions on the need-to-know basis, because otherwise I'd have to get into all the technical crap, and that would drive most of you nuts, because a lot of people do not understand all the technical jargon. So we're going to keep this all layman terms for you, all right? So an acoustic electric guitar is to be plugged into an acoustic amplifier. What's the difference between an acoustic amp and a regular guitar amp? Well, frequency responses for one, speakers, the ability for the speaker to reproduce the sound of the guitar, be it electric or acoustic. There's differences in the speakers, okay? The amount of movement or travel that that speaker is allowed to do or not allowed to do, all right? So in the layman terms of things, you have acoustic amplifiers for acoustic guitars, right? Now, this is whether you're going to mic it up, okay, or plug in direct. Either way, you're cool, right? Plugging a bass guitar in, and I'm going to bring basses into this because someone's going to ask this question. Can you plug a bass guitar into an acoustic amp or into a regular guitar amp? You can do whatever you want, but you will blow stuff up, okay? Guaranteed, you start cranking that sucker up, you will blow it up, all right? Point blank. Now, the speakers are not designed to handle bass guitar frequencies. Neither are the amplifiers. That's why you have a bass amp for bass guitars, okay, or a PA system. See, your PA systems are your ultimate. You get a mixing board, you get a set of speakers that are monitor speakers that are powered or passive with a, powered mixer, and plug in whatever the hell you want and have fun. Throw all your effects pedals through, do whatever you want. You plug any guitar you want into it, reproduce the sound, sounds great. You're golden, okay? That's the ultimate setup. However, it's not what we're all into. And a lot of us just need something to create some good sound. So anyway, some people will cheap out and they'll buy a regular guitar amp and they'll plug in their acoustic electric into it because they can't afford or think it's ludicrous for the price of a acoustic amplifier. Well, you know what? These are people who will eventually someday blow shit up. All right? And that's sad because, but it does happen. I have been plugging in acoustic electric guitars, whether it's had a built-in electronics or a sound hole pickup, into guitar amps for years. I've never blown anything up. Why? Because I can't get the volume high enough to make anything usable, and the sound quality wasn't the world's best, but it did amplify it enough that those who were listening didn't care anyway as far as the quality difference would be. And so that's kind of one thing. But I did run the risk of still cooking stuff, but I just didn't push the volume levels. If you do push the volume levels, you start feedback. You also break up your sound very quickly because the amp clips, because it can't handle that stuff, all right? Neither can the speaker. And so eventually, yeah, you're going to cook stuff. So Boss is a company who's come out with an amplifier called the Katana. And the Katana has an acoustic circuit in it, okay? So you just turn the knob to acoustic. Now, what that is for is so that you can plug in an acoustic electric guitar and reproduce the sound of that guitar in a safe way and a very nice, clean sound, I might add. Now, when you turn the switch back to regular clean mode on that amp and you still have an acoustic guitar in there, you run the risk of feedback, okay, big time. You'll still get feedback on the acoustic mode, don't get me wrong. It's just that it'll take a lot more before it happens. But when you move it back, you also hear a tonal difference. The sound, the circuitry is not able to reproduce your sound of your guitar the same way. It actually sounds crappier. Okay, so go back to the acoustic mode and it sounds beautiful. Okay, so but less than 3% of all available amps on the market right now have the ability of the Boss Katana. Okay, less than 3%. So that's not very many amps when you think about it. So what people have been doing for years, up until even Boss came out with this, was you had an acoustic amp for acoustics, you had an electric guitar amp for electrics. If you were stupid, you plugged in an acoustic guitar into a regular guitar amp and took your chances. All right. Or the ultimate, of course, is like I said, plug all your shit into a PA and just have a party. All right. But just keep in mind, you will need DI boxes for each guitar that you plug in, including a bass guitar. You should actually have a DI box. Keyboards are the exception. They don't need a DI box, but it is optional. You can use a DI box for a keyboard, but not necessary. But certainly with your guitars, you do need a DI box. You don't plug a guitar directly into a mixing board. You always use a DI. And the same with your bass guitar. It's a guitar. It goes through a DI. Now I have a DI box on my mixing board, and it's strictly for using with my bass guitar, but if I want to sit here with my acoustic and jam out and plug direct in, then I can do that, and I go through the DI box. Alright, otherwise I put my amp on acoustic mode. My amplifier has a line out, which is kind of nice, and this is my Katana, and it runs into my board, and I don't need a DI that way, and because the amplifier has a line out system whereby I don't need a DI for a plug-in for it on the board side. It's direct into the board, which is kind of nice. And I can plug in my acoustic guitar in there, and I can plug in my electrics. Just my bass guitar, no. Bass guitar must go through my DI box. And I don't have a bass amp. I could say that, you know, I kind of want one, but do I need it? No. So will I buy one? Absolutely freaking not, because I go through my DI box. So I really don't need a bass guitar amplifier in here. But I do have my Roland Cube 60 COSM amp. Now, this is something I want to explain about amplifiers, especially from the Roland Boss side of the house. The Roland series amplifier, like the Roland Cube 60, and probably your 40 as well, I think has the acoustic mode. What that is for is to take your electric guitar and make it sound like an acoustic guitar, or at least a cheap representation of one, which does work out, by the way, quite nicely if you dial in things nice. It is not for giving you the ability to plug in an acoustic guitar, okay, and reproducing the sound of an acoustic guitar. It is only to make your guitar sound, your electric guitar, sound like an acoustic guitar. However, in the Boss Katana, okay, you have two options. One, you can make your electric guitar sound like an acoustic guitar when you program the pedal into the amp for the acoustic pedal. That's one. Two, you can safely plug in and reproduce beautiful sound out of your acoustic electric guitar into the Boss Katana, and you turn the switch to acoustic, and it alters the circuitry to allow the reproduction of that sound, and the speaker is capable of reproducing that sound quality too, whereas a regular guitar amp, the speakers are not designed to reproduce the acoustic sound properly. And you will notice the difference. If you go into a music store, you grab an acoustic electric off the wall, you will hear the exact same thing. That's why I'm not doing it on the video, because I want to save time too. But take the acoustic guitar and switch it to the acoustic mode. Listen very carefully, okay? And leave your bass, mid, and treble all in the middle, okay? And make sure you start out with bass, mid, and treble all at the middle on the electric guitar, on the electric acoustic guitar if it has bass, mid, and treble control. And listen to the sound, and then get that memorized. And then switch the dial just to the regular clean, okay? Listen to the sound again, and then back and forth and back and forth. You're going to hear a major difference in sound, okay? If you're not deaf, okay, or tone deaf, you will hear a difference in sound, and it'll be very, very noticeable. And so that's the difference. And so you can actually safely plug any acoustic guitar into the Boss Katanas, whereas a regular amp, you get to have either a acoustic amp for acoustic guitars and an electric guitar amp for electric guitars. All right, and that's just the way it rolls. All right, there's a reason for everything, or like I said, the ultimate is a PA system. Now, if you plug in a bass guitar into an electric guitar amp, you will cook that amp. Especially if you bring the volume up any amount. And we all know that bass guitars have a very low frequency range, even though the standard tuning for a 4-string anyways is E, A, G, G, same as your regular guitar is, but it's at a much lower frequency range, and the speakers need to be able to move. And acoustic speakers cannot move as much, nor can electric guitar amp speakers move as much as what's required to deal with those frequencies from a bass guitar. which is why if you start cranking the volume up on the bass so you can at least be heard in the mix, okay, yeah, you're going to be pushing the crap out of that speaker, and you can smoke the speaker, cook the amp. Oh, you can probably even start a fire if you do it right. And yeah, that's why they have bass guitar amps for bass guitars. Now, I have a bass guitar. I don't have a bass amp. That's why I have a mixing console. That's why I have monitor speakers that are made to designed to handle this crap kind of stuff I put them through. Okay, and I don't need a bass amp this way. But that's the short part of it. You know, so I've gotten away with plugging acoustic guitars into regular guitar amps, but I can't push them hard or they feedback, which is a problem. And the sound quality does kind of suck. When you listen to an actual acoustic amp, oh, the sound is great, you know, especially if you get the right amp. You know, you get some little dink speakers, like, don't expect much for quality reproduction. It's an acoustic amp, it's got speakers. That doesn't matter, it's the sound we're after. Can it produce the sound? To a certain point. I think that, you know, in all honesty, I don't think amps should be made with anything less than a 10-inch speaker, okay? And I like 10s and 12s, okay, is my preference for speakers and amps. For a simple fact is those speakers right out of the get-go are nowadays generally designed to handle high wattage, but they're also designed to reproduce the sound so nice because it's the sound wave path that comes out of a bigger speaker is so much richer and fuller, okay, because you also have a larger cabinet too, which helps with that. Whereas a smaller speaker tends to be very tight and very tinny in comparison and sounds kind of like shit. So I kind of like bigger stuff. Now, I do have 8-inch speakers in my monitors, but we're talking 8-inch woofers, okay, not speakers, which is a difference between a speaker and a woofer. A woofer is made to really pound and throb that signal through at different variance levels, including being able to just, you know, bounce like a bitch and, you know, bounce the crap out of your walls. Ask my wife. I mean, seriously, I sometimes drive her nuts. Even with my PA system in here, and I don't crank it that loud. I've had a few times, I've cranked it up in here. I wanted to see what would happen, you know, and see how much I can vibrate the place. But my speakers are powered speakers. They're YSM8s, and they are outstanding. If you get a chance to listen to a pair, take a listen because they are sick. And I run the output on each speaker in the middle, okay? So I'm only using half of the biamps, right? And with my mixing system, I don't even push it full blast, and I don't need to. I get about quarter power, and I still bounce the crap out of the walls in here. It's amazing. And the Boss Katana amp, I don't even have to turn it up that loud, and I literally chime the strings. You can see the strings going ka-smack right off the fretboard. And I'm like, I think I need to solve that because that's a little too much vibration even for my Martin. So it's not really good for the guitars. So I gotta stop that chiming from going on. I've even tried moving my acoustics further away, and that didn't really help. So I might actually have to move them to another room, especially when I want to play a little louder, because that amp can put out some serious power and not even have to be turned up that loud. It's a nice amp. Can't say enough good about the Boss Katana amp. It's just wonderful. Samurai cut through everything. You know. So anyways, guys, I hope this answers your questions. And, of course, if you're a bass guy, you already now know, don't plug into a guitar amp or an acoustic amp. Plug into a bass amp or a PA. As for the rest of you on your acoustic guitar ventures, miking up a acoustic guitar, you mic up into a PA system. You know, that's how it's done. To actually get a proper mix with your guitar, if that's what you're trying to accomplish, you're better off with a regular acoustic electric unless you feel like having like over a dozen microphones surrounding you and not being able to move around much, because otherwise what happens is what's called waveform. Okay, and this is the problem with acoustic guitars being mic'd up. This is why electronics in them now is awesome, is because when you mic up an acoustic guitar, you have to have it, you know, within the sound hole and a certain distance from the mic, and the mixing system has to be pushed a certain amount in order to, you know, compensate for the distances too, because you don't want to be right up on the mic. Like when you're singing, you're up into the mic, you know. You almost have to eat some microphones, literally. But you do have to have the mic, regardless of the mic, up close to get the most definition and quality out of your voice into the mic and through the sound system. The further away you pull it away, the more tinier you get, and there's no way anybody's going to fix that mix. You know, with acoustic guitars, they have to be a certain distance from the mic, and because we always tend to move around when we're playing, you know, this is where a waveform happens, and you go in and out on the mix, in and out on the mix, in and out on the mix. This is why acoustic electrics are actually the optimal. Or if you don't have an acoustic electric, get yourself a really good pickup, you know, put into the sound hole. One of the ones I would really super highly recommend is the Fishman Neo Ds. They are great because they are quiet as a mouse. They work beautiful. They reproduce a sound awesome. Check my channel. I actually have a few videos with the Fishman Neo D being used in an old Fender guitar that I had. And it was great, you know, and worked as a great solution, you know. And then I got my Takamine, which has all built-in stuff. Now I got my Martin. And I've had many guitars. I've bought, sold, and traded literally hundreds and hundreds of guitars over the years, and amplifiers and effects pedals and all this other stuff, you know. And we do this because, you know, we want better stuff, or, you know, we just want to try something different, or we're like, well, I got this and it really wasn't that shit hot after all, so I kind of, you know, ditched it off, you know, at least for my usage. Some people will appreciate something that we don't, you know. And you know, so when you start going through all this stuff, you start thinking about, God, why couldn't I just settle it a long time ago? Well, that's the problem. You got to find these things out, you know, and over time, you know, go into music shops and play a lot. I go into Long and McQuaid. I almost live there. I keep telling the boss, you know, like the owner and the guys, I'm like, you know, just throw me a cot in the back. I mean, I'm in here almost every day, you know, especially for the last couple of weeks straight. And I almost always leave there with something, you know, except for the last little bit. I'm kind of like tapped out right now, so I'm kind of like, there's a couple guitars I'd like to take home with me right now, but I can't. Anyways, try stuff out in the music stores. You know, like, don't be afraid. You know, plug into stuff, try it out, see what you think of it. You know, and that's how you find what you're after a lot easier. You know, and this way maybe you don't make a mistake and end up ditching it 3 months down the road because you really don't like it in the end. So, you know, really give it a good workout. You know, go in there a couple different times and play or whatever, and then make up your mind. You know. This is where, you know, I even, you know, tell people, like, you know, they're looking for a new guitar, you know, same thing. It's like, go in there, play a bunch, whatever speaks to you, it comes home, you know, it could stick around forever, or maybe you'll trade it in a couple of months or something different. You never know. But whatever speaks to you is what you buy, technically, you know. So that's how we roll. But anyway, hopefully this video helped. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do the best I can to answer them, of course. I don't know everything, okay, so please don't assume I do. Some people do assume I know everything because I have a lot of gifts and talents, you know, and a lot of abilities and knowledge and stuff, but I don't know everything. So, you know, but I do know what I know, and that's all, you know, and I'm always learning new stuff all the time, too, like everybody else, so even I watch videos as well. You know, do be careful when you're plugging stuff into your guitar amps, and make sure that it's something you can do. And hopefully this video will help you to save yourself from blowing stuff up. You know, I know I've never blown anything up myself yet. I've always been borderline on the side of caution. You know, and of course I've also, since I've had the Katana amp, I can actually really super hear the difference. And I'm like, wow, it's staying in acoustic mode for the acoustic for sure, you know, because it has to. But also running an electric guitar on the acoustic mode, I wouldn't suggest it, even though you could probably get away with it. I wouldn't suggest it. I would leave it in the regular mode for your electric guitar, and then just do your thing. Now, one last final thing, and then we'll get out of here. Running distortion and overdrive effects with an acoustic guitar, good idea or bad? Bad idea, okay? Why? Sounds like crap, okay? It's an acoustic electric. It's not an electric guitar. It's not designed to even be an electric guitar. It's designed to be an acoustic electric. Anyways, on that note, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed and had fun with this video. Sorry for it being so long, but hey, gotta get the information out there for you guys. Hey, feel free to subscribe and then click that bell. You get notifications. And hey, stay tuned for more fun on my channel. See ya!